Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Hello everyone, this is Henry Harris. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity to watch today's program today. And we have a special series that we're going to be tackling, and that is the subject of narcissism. I know many of you are excited about that. You've been looking forward with such anticipation to hear about it. And that's what I want to talk about for the next few weeks, actually the next 5 weeks. I'm going to be talking about different things in regards to this subject that I really believe that's going to help you tremendously. My name is Henry Harris, and I'm the host of the Brother Henry and You Show. And it's such an honor to be able to be addressing a subject that I feel needs to be addressed. Many people feel like it doesn't. I believe that it does need to be addressed. And because it's a subject a lot of people sweep under the rug, it's a subject a lot of people don't want to talk about. Sometimes it makes people uncomfortable, but as y'all know, I'm one of those guys that like to tackle those types of subjects. So before we begin this series, this is something that I really need you to hear me out on. I want to give a trigger warning to all of you who may be watching this content, as much of the content that I will be addressing will be in regards to narcissism and the different types of behaviors that are associated with it. The subjects to each broadcast, you'll see it right there on my YouTube video or on Facebook. You'll get to see it. They will be clearly listed. You can also see the description of the video, like the things I'm going to be talking about in regards to that subject. So after you read that, you see what the title of the subject is and description, and you know the nature of it, narcissism. And after you read that and you say, oh, I don't know if I want to watch that, I may feel triggered by past abusive situations or whatnot, I'm just letting you know that this is your warning just not to proceed any further beyond this point and watching this video. Not just this video, but the next 5 videos, the next 5 weeks of series I will be doing on this subject. I wouldn't want to encourage you to watch if you feel like it's going to trigger a response or trigger you in some way, because this subject can be very triggering. But if you want to watch for educational purposes or awareness purposes, please do so, as that is my intent. To help people who may be or find themselves in situations like this. So before we get started, the subject today is if I can't have you, no one can. Now, this is predominantly said, I'm not a sexist or anything like that, but this is predominantly said, I would say mostly by men who tell women that if I can't have you, nobody can have you. And they're serious when they say that. That's something that does not need to be taken lightly. That's something that needs to be taken seriously, and we need to really dive into that what do they mean when they say that? But before we get into that, since we're talking about narcissism, let's define what narcissism is. According to Wikipedia, and you'll see it right there on the screen, narcissism is a self-centered personality style characterized as having an excessive interest in one's physical appearance or image, and an excessive preoccupation with one's needs, often at the expense of others. Narcissism exists on a continuum that ranges from normal to abnormal personality expressions. While there exist normal and healthy levels of narcissism in humans, there are also more extreme levels of narcissism being seen particularly in people who are self-absorbed or people who have pathological mental illness like narcissistic personality disorder. So today, I want to talk to you about if I can't have you, no one can. Now that famous line, if I can't have you, no one can, is often, that line is often said by the narcissistic person and said by the person who is often overbearing, obsessive, and controlling. And I would like to add the word abusive as well, especially if the victim has a long history with that person, whether that is by means of a marriage or a relationship. If you've been with that person a long period of time, I can understand why you may be afraid to leave, especially if that person told you, if I can't have you, no one else can. And sometimes they'll tell you that nobody wants you but me. Nobody will treat you like I do. Nobody will love you the way I do. They will really convince you of that. So if you got a long history with that individual that's treating you like crap like that, you may believe it, even though how they're treating you is not right. They may be abusive, they may be aggressive, they may be controlling. In your mind, that may be the norm. That's what I'm trying to say. That may be the norm for you. You keep going back to him, because that may be the norm for you. And I've said this before, when a good guy comes along, you don't know how to handle it because you're so accustomed to being treated the opposite. So sometimes I can see why it could be a little difficult to kind of walk away or detach yourself from somebody. But because if you got a long history with that person, sometimes it's hard to just not walk away. So what does it mean if you're told that? If I can't have you, no one can. What does that really mean? In my observation, this is just my opinion, my observation based on conversations I've had with women in the past and continue to have conversations. In my observation, and let me say this also, I'm not saying men don't go through this. I think men go through it, but it's very rare. It's very rare. Typically, I feel that women are the ones who predominantly experience this type of behavior. So in my observation, that word, if I can't have you, no one can mean many things. It may mean many things to you. But I would say ultimately it comes across as a threat to the victim. Now, if you're making notes, you may want to write that down. That when someone says, if I can't have you, no one can, you should put right there equals threat. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a threat. It could also mean that you're not going anywhere. This is what the perpetrator will say to you. You're not going anywhere. And even if you tried, it would be very risky. And the abuser would do everything in their power to make your life a living hell, even at the expense of your demise. That means death. Let's just be real. We've seen it happen. We've seen people who try to leave relationships and marriages and they end up getting buried. That's how serious this subject is today. It could also mean isolating you from your family members, from the ones that you love, your friends, your co-workers. It could mean taking you away from social media, your contacts, and from people in general. Because that narcissist really believes that they own you. It's important that you know that narcissistic people feed off of two things. They feed off of control and power, which as a result manifests in these types of behaviors. And in their minds, they think it's okay to treat you that way and to say such things as, if I can't have you, no one else can. Because the narcissists feel that you deserved it. Or, let's say in their own words, you made him do it. Well, I would not have said that to you if you hadn't. Well, I would have not done that to you if you fill in the blanks. This is not right. I don't care who you are, and if you're experiencing this, my heart goes out to you. This is not right on many levels, and no one should be saying such words to anyone. To whoever is watching, and you're told such things, it is very important that you take it seriously. This subject is very important to me, and I'm not doing this for views or for ratings or for popularity. I'm doing this to bring an awareness and to help you to be aware of these situations so you can deal with it more effectively. How many people do you know today? And I'm asking you this question. How many people do you know today? No matter how bad the marriage is, no matter how bad the relationship is, they stay with the abuser after being told, if I can't have you, no one else can. How many people you know today, they will actually stay there. They're not going anywhere, because those words alone is the stamp that keeps that victim in place and under their control. Even to say that to a victim would make one feel somewhat inadequate or powerless, or that there are no steps to take to remove yourself out of these situations, and it can be very scary. And may I add, especially if children are involved. And I don't want to talk about that because that's another subject for another day. I have a whole lot I can say about that, and I may talk about that later on in the future. So let's face it, it can be very scary to be told those words, but let's call it what it is. As I said earlier, it's simply a threat, and in most cases, it's not a good threat. Is there even a such thing as a good threat? Anyway, a threat is a threat. Also, in some cases, people who cannot handle rejection, we're talking about the narcissists who cannot handle rejection, will actually go above and beyond to destroy this person they say that they love and want so badly. And that's something I could never understand. How can you hurt somebody and destroy somebody that you say you love? The narcissist will do everything in their power to go above and beyond to destroy you, whether it's you, your reputation. They will make you look like the bad guy. And while hoping that they will come back. Most people do go back. I did a show on that not too long ago. I said, why do people go back to abusive relationships? Some of them do go back. They have a history of trying to make you look like you're the bad guy, or they will come after you. We're talking about the perpetrator. They will come after you. They will come after your friends. They will come after your family members. They will do everything. They will send letters. They would show up at your door. They would do everything in their power to reel, like getting a fish out there, to reel you back into that relationship, to reel you back into that marriage. And some have said to that person, you can't even make it without me. And we know that's a lie, because you're making it, right? To those that are watching now, that you've left situations like this, you've been told such things like this. You're a single mom. You're taking care of your children. You're working. You're being productive. You made it, right? So he was wrong. So this subject can also be tied to obsession as well. The person may be very obsessed with you, that the abuser feels like that they have complete control over you and ownership over you, which can explain why the abuser would tell you, if I can't have you, no one else can. So let's just be honest. In their eyes, no matter how abusive the abuser may be to you, or whatever's going on behind closed doors that Facebook don't know about, that your church don't know about, that a friend may not know about, in their mind, they are actually telling you you're not going anywhere if they can help it. So the narcissists, they can be very heartless, because let's just be bluntly honest, they simply don't care. And they will set up schemes and tricks to keep you around. And in some cases, if you're not careful, they will even try to sweet talk you, thinking that everything will be fine, honey. I won't do it again. But watch this, only to find yourself going back to the abuser in a repeated cycle again. And in many cases, listen to me, especially women who go back to these men, don't always make it out of those relationships or marriages. This is some important information, folks. You need to also be aware that if you are trying to leave or plan an exit from the abuser, they may mention things like therapy. Or, you know what, I shouldn't have hit you. I shouldn't have said that to you. I shouldn't have done this to you. You know, I need help. I need therapy. Let me tell you something. If that person was going to get therapy, they would have been and got therapy. Can you not see that what they're doing is what you call manipulation? Trying to manipulate their way through that marriage and relationship. They're going to keep treating you that way. I'm going to get therapy. No, they're not going to get therapy. Some would even contemplate suicide. They would threaten to take their own lives. I'm just going to take if I can't be with you, I don't want to be here no more. I'm just going to take my own life. Some of them have done that. And they only say that with the intent to make you feel sorry for them. Oh no, honey, don't take your life. Don't do it. Because you don't want him to take his life. Especially if y'all have children with each other. So these are just schemes and tricks we need to think about. I'm sure there are more out there you can think about. So also at some point, if the perpetrator is not doing it, will display behavior which can escalate to stalking you. They will stalk you, whether that's your job or wherever it may be, your home, with threats and physical violence. A narcissist just can't accept the word no. You can't tell them, I'm tired of you, I'm moving on. No, not in their mind. You're not going anywhere in their mind. It can be very dangerous to leave the perpetrator. It is very important to listen to these words. You belong to me, and I have the right to tell you what to do. That's what the narcissist will say to you. Or they'll say, you have disrespected me by leaving. And I know in your mind, you're like, well, you're the one that's abusing me, treating me all these type of ways. You're the one that's being disrespectful to me. I'm not being disrespectful to you. And if you feel that way, you are right. You've never disrespected the abuser. But because you're not willing to go alone, because you're not willing to play by the rules, even if those rules are toxic and abusive and not good for you in a healthy way, the abuser will still feel like they're being disrespected. And even to think about leaving can create more issues. So you need to understand that ending such a relationship safely will require strategy and planning and help. But don't feel like you're doing this alone, and don't do it alone. Don't feel powerless. Like I said earlier, don't feel inadequate. Don't feel helpless. There is help out there today. There is help. You may be one of those women that may be watching me right now that may have been told, if I can't have you, no one else can. You may have exited a bad marriage or a bad relationship. And if you did, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to the perpetrator. But ultimately you need to understand that you don't deserve that. You don't deserve that type of treatment. And if you're in a situation like that, you don't hear the words, but you carefully understand the meaning of it. And hopefully in today's show, you have a slight idea, after all the information I've given you today, if and when you're ever told those words, you will stand up and know how to deal with it. Join me next week. We're going to go into part 2 of our series, Narcissism. And next week, we're going to talk about, I promise, I'm going to change. Do they really change? Find out next week.
We hope you have enjoyed today's program. We want to connect with you. Visit us at facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show, or visit us on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We're so grateful you tuned in today and hope you have a fantastic day.